Welcome to the Intern Whisperer Live, the show all about internships and how to survive them. This is Jerron.
This is Isabella. And joining us for this episode is Chris Rank with Real Simple Photos. On tonight's show, we will hear from Chris about working with interns with Pivot Business Consulting, great leaders, entrepreneurship, and cool tech in the photography industry. And we may take some other side alleys along the way just to let our listeners know. Also this evening, we have a pop-in guest tonight. He's from UCF. His name is Valan. I'm going to slaughter your name.
Everybody does. It's all right.
Go ahead, say it.
Zuccolillo.
Zuccolillo. Yeah, I know I would have just torn it apart. Who is checking out the radio show as his possible internship for the summer. So welcome. We'd like to say welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
And as we mentioned,
Your turn.
And as we mentioned before, coming up this episode, we're going to talk about some great leaders, entrepreneurship, and the coolest innovation in your industry.
So our social plugs. People can find Pivot Business Consulting, Intern Pursuit Software, Intern Pursuit Game. We're on Facebook for all of those companies. We are also on Twitter. It's at Pivot Biz Consult, at Intern Game, and then also at Intern Pursuit. And then we have LinkedIn pages, so people come like us, follow us. We love that. And then you can also listen to us live on mixlr.com, Valencia/Valencia College Radio. You can make sure that you find Valencia College Radio, all one word. Follow it, and then you can search for Intern Pursuit and listen to us live. You can watch us live on Facebook, Intern Pursuit.
But first, let's talk about our first sponsor, Starter Studio, an accelerator and co-working area located in downtown Orlando. A cool co-working space to 100-plus companies working in areas of technology and supportive businesses. A healthy startup community doesn't exist in a bubble, and Starter Studio is working to connect startups to a broader entrepreneurial ecosystem that will help them grow. You can find them at starterstudio.org. Thank you, Starter Studio, for sponsoring the Intern Whisperer Live.
I like that music. I love our music. Thank you, Sophie, for our music. We love our music. So, Chris Rank, he is an entrepreneur. He is also the owner of Real Simple Photos. So I'm going to mix up the order of the questions here, just so you know. I want you to talk about your company first. Go ahead and tell us, before the show started, I was learning about some new things that he's doing. So why don't you tell our listeners what it is that you do?
So Real Simple Photos very easily is a production company. We saw a hole in the market where we've got a bunch of professional photographers sitting around, 5-6 days a week not working in between their really big jobs. So these are professional commercial photographers, and the idea of Real Simple Photos was to be able to engage small business and link them with more successful commercial photographers that they normally would never be able to afford or hire ever, because they would just blow them out in price. However, what we do is we offer a clearinghouse so that these guys can take some time away from their normal photography practice, do a very quick 90-minute photo shoot for Real Simple Photos, and help out the small businesses and startups that are located in the Orlando area where these guys and girls live. And so that idea just kind of continued to bounce around, and we got some great clients and worked with some great folks and worked with a bunch of photographers and got to pay out a bunch of my friends, which is great. And then most recently I was approached by a large studio here called Studio One, and the folks that own that place had asked me to move in there and go ahead and merge the commercial production capabilities of Real Simple Photos with their television production facilities. So, Michael and Wendy are the owners of Studio One, and they have a lot of background in large-scale production, movies and TV and things like that.
Nice.
And they just don't know the first thing about commercial production, which is what my company does. So it's it's kind of
You're supporting each other.
Yeah, so it's a really great, it's not really a merger so much as we're working together really closely and, spinning up the production company there. One of the evolutions that happen, business is always an evolution. You always find yourself with an idea one day and then evolving it over time. Photography is great. I have a passion for photography. It's totally necessary. However, what we found is that the revenue is really in video and commercial production. People want social media video. They want, any other type of, teasers and web page video and all this sort of thing. And so we ended up doing a lot more, both long and short form video.
One of the fun facts that I had shared on a previous show is that I read that by next year, video content will be 80% of what people see on their social feeds. I believe that's to be true because at any time, and I rarely go on Facebook, Twitter, pick any channel, that is what you see. Instagram, I'm so surprised there's so much video on there. It's amazing. So people do like video, and we should see that as a definite trend. One of the things that I think was interesting is that when you and I met, you pitched your idea at 1 Million Cups. And so I'm really glad to see that you're taking it to fruition and you're beginning to partner up, so to speak, not a contract partner, but collaborate with others. And
there's contracts.
Oh, I'm sure there are. But I mean, partner. Yeah.
The only kind of ship that never sails is a partnership. So
that's true. I know that's true.
We have a really great working relationship with Studio One, and we're joining forces with them, and I think that it's going to be a really great, kind of next level for the company and allow us to do some things that we would have never been able to do. I know nothing about producing reality TV shows. I know lots about producing commercials, whereas, the other executive producer over there knows nothing about commercials, or next to nothing, and knows everything about reality TV, and had produced at MTV for many years and had done a lot of other spots, or not spots, a lot of other shows, all over the reality TV circuit. So they've got lots of experience there, and then the other principal over there is this gentleman named Michael Lewis, and he's just a trip. He's a little guy, but he's got a lot to say, and he's very interesting. And he was a war photographer for many years. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So these guys are actually Jerron. He is in the School of Video Production and also record. Go ahead. Tell him.
Radio television production is my full major name.
Okay.
Yeah, I always mess it up too. But, there's this interesting side of now that's what Valencia is doing. We see Full Sail, UCF, all of the schools, Seminole State, they're all having these types of programs that are going on. So it's definitely a trend.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I've worked with Valencia on a production or two. We did, when they were opening the Dr. Phillips studio, we were actually the still photographers for when they were putting a production together for over at Nickelodeon Studios, which is now closed. Like, they closed that soundstage to build more things over there. And so that's, again, where, we're building a sound one, and it's kind of to fill that hole. Because right now there are only 2 working sound stages within a 150-mile radius.
They have one at UCF?
They do not. No, they don't.
No,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people will be using that.
Yeah, no, and Valencia doesn't have a sound stage per se. Like, it's not like, your movie can come in here and just rent Valencia for a day.
Right.
No, but Full Sail does.
Yeah, Full Sail. But
they have the back lot.
Right, but again, Full Sail doesn't, I don't believe that they rent their facilities to just any.
Yeah, I don't know.
UCF just has like a studio inside that you can use.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And again, Studio One's like that as well. It's all a photography studio right now. It's two white cyc walls and 1 black cyc wall. But there's we're partnering with another company that's a recording studio, and they are building out with us the entire sound stage and a recording studio. So pretty exciting stuff.
What's the most famous person you've ever met? Since we're talking about videos, this was not a planned question.
You mean like that I worked with, or just any celebrity I've ever met?
Oh,
Both.
let's take both. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think one of the coolest celebrities I met was I was actually in college working catering, and I wasn't in production at all. And I met Will Wheaton, so that was pretty cool.
Oh.
And that was a long time ago. Like, he was still on Star Trek when I met him.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's, gives you a little, I'm probably dating myself to the 80s.
That's okay, but he's popular on The Big Bang Theory, so.
Yeah. And I actually did get to meet Steve Jobs. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's a lot of people can't say they've done that.
Like,
Yeah.
did you actually have a conversation with him, too?
Yeah, I
or
was
was
at
like,
Apple
oh, nice to meet
headquarters
you?
for a conference, and just stood in line and got to see him before he was going to give a talk to us. So it was pretty cool.
That is cool. Well, I don't know. I hope that I have a story like that to share one day that's like, ooh, this person. Anyway, okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about internships. Where did you go to school?
I went to Valencia, actually. I graduated.
Yay! How about
Valencia.
that? And what was your degree?
It is an AA, so I mean,
Okay.
this is before. Is Valencia doing the thing where they have a BA now?
Yeah, they actually did launch that.
Neither of
this
us
year.
go to the school.
They're from
Okay, I'm
UCF.
looking at you guys like, I mean,
No, they're
like
UCF students.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're from UCF.
see.
But I can tell you that, Valencia has launched a BA program. It's this year that they launched one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's before they had anything like that. So
Well, they actually have tracks now, so the students come in, and while they're working for either an AA or an AS, they can put them on a track, and then it's an automatic admission into UCF, pending, of course, grades. But that way, they have had some of the coursework to prepare them for that particular track. So you went to Valencia. Did you go somewhere else after?
UCF.
Okay.
Okay, great. I got you there.
So I'm outnumbered.
Valencia
Just me.
and then UCF. And actually, my wife works for UCF. She's an academic advisor for first-year advisor.
So we want to say hi to Nadine. Hello. Yeah.
And
yeah.
what was your degree from your bachelor degree?
So that's kind of interesting, right? Is the story of most entrepreneurs is that they drop out of college, and I was no exception. So I dropped out of college and was working, my degree actually went away. So I was working on a bachelor's in economics and political science.
How can that go away? Because that seems like that's a standard degree.
You would think, yeah, but it was
Yeah.
out of. So I was, I always try to do things like too clever by half, So I didn't. Back in the day, they had this really awful program at UCF for the business program that required a bunch of extra courses that no one wanted to take that didn't pertain to anything. But the dean was like, this is his program, and that guy's gone 20 years ago, but at any rate, so I was like, no, I'm going to do economics through College of Arts and Sciences, which isn't even a college at UCF anymore, from what I understand.
It's arts and humanities now. I think.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was only 4 of us in the major at the time because everybody else that was doing economics just went through the College of Business. And so to me, and again, the root of economics is a humanity. It's not a science. People call it the dismal science or whatever, but it's just philosophy. Economics is 100% pure philosophy. They try to back it up with some math, and if they tell you that it's an exact science, they are lying. So, that's
supply and demand. That's really the
supply and demand is great. Yeah, I mean all the rest
premise
of the
and
stuff,
what is it? The hand,
the invisible,
Invisible
hand.
the invisible
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Yes, the invisible hand.
So
At the time, what made you choose that major?
it's actually interesting that you asked that. I had a professor at Valencia, so I had a great Valencia experience. A lot of people have different college experiences, but my Valencia experience was awesome. I had a professor here that had retired from some Ivy League school and was just an adjunct, teaching a couple of classes a semester in humanities, and it was awesome. I mean, this guy was great. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was really inspiring and interesting. And then I had another professor that taught economics named Dr. Jack Chambliss, and I don't think he's still here, but he was extremely inspiring. And I was like, no, I really like economics. So I took all of the econ classes I could from this guy here at Valencia, and was like, and I aced them all, and I was like, I think I'm going to major in economics because of that one Valencia professor.
Well, it's a nice shout out to Valencia for that. That's cool. So then after you chose that, you went into what kind of career originally? Because your career path is a little eclectic, and that's kind of cool.
So, yeah, I went from, econ and all this stuff and go into school, and I actually fell into, I was doing consulting at the time through school for IT consulting. So I was one of the only certified Apple techs back in the 90s in Central Florida, and had passed all my certs and all that jazz, and was, just running around doing consulting for, ad agencies and people that used Macs back then. Everybody's got Macs nowadays, but in the dark days, like, that you guys don't even remember, like, people were talking about, like, well, Apple's going out of business. Like, what are you talking about? I mean,
I don't know. They may not have been born then.
Yeah. People would genuinely talk about, like, Apple going out of business constantly. And there was a point at which Apple's stock was, like, $11 a share. Because people genuinely, like, right before Steve Jobs came back on and took over, like, and even during the Jobs years, like, people were like, no, they're going out of business. Dell should just buy them up. And, like, where's Dell now?
Yeah,
I mean, it's so funny. I mean, there was actually one of these folks in one of my group projects in college, and their premise was Dell should buy Apple. And, like, they had the cash at the time to do so, and it was really funny.
Amazing how much the technology industry changes, just in like one generation of new innovation.
When you have a brilliant mind like Steve Jobs, you have to wait for the next one to come around, whoever that person is. So you went into IT, and you and I were talking about this earlier, and IT has kind of a broad interpretation, because some people think of it as coding, some people think of it as you solve problems, you're the help desk, some people think of it as you're a network administrator. I mean, it has everything across the spectrum.
Sure.
So what is your definition of IT, and what did you do?
Well, to me, information technology or information systems, people use them interchangeably. I think that it's looking at a business from the top down, from a 60,000-foot point of view, and being able to know what systems they need to be able to do their job and get whatever they're doing out the door. If they're making widgets, if they're, talking to people, and what is the technology supposed to be doing to help them at that goal. And if you don't come at it from a holistic perspective, like, we just got a bunch of computers, can you fix this? It's like, that doesn't do anybody any good. Because most people don't know enough about computers to know what they can do for their business. And so my job as a consultant was to come in and to pull things from all sorts of disciplines and be able to recommend systems based on what the company is attempting to accomplish at that moment, to be profitable. And so when you're dealing with IT or IS or whatever you're dealing with, whether it's network or servers or whatever, if you're not coming at it from a holistic perspective, that you're looking at how do we solve business problems for this business through technology, then ultimately all you're doing is just kind of being the next version of Geek Squad, and nobody needs that.
Well, they serve a good purpose for some people. We'll be kind to them. So, okay, so you went into that route, and now you're doing photography. You're, to me, and I said this earlier, more of like a Renaissance type of a man. You have your finger in a little bit of everything. You do websites. You have the server admin side. You come over here and you can do photography. You know things about video. I always have appreciated being able to go to you, because when I had, hey, what do you think about this? You would give me some really solid advice and something to think about. So I think that your business acumen is pretty brilliant, honestly.
Thank you.
But again, your background is so rich and it's woven together of a lot of different interests. So How did you get into all of that?
You just got to keep failing until you figure something out.
Yeah. Well, and realize
keep failing
that
up.
that's true. That's true.
Do, right?
And one of the things I was talking with Jerron and some other guests before is like, you don't have to be in a box and think this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Because obviously, Chris over here, he's telling us he's done a lot of things.
Sure. I mean, and not to use an aphorism. Is it aphorism?
I don't know.
But you know, I ended up, you know, with my company, we had to pivot into a lot of different things. And so Isabella, her company's called Pivot, but yeah, I mean, you know, the whole video production thing, you know, I'd worked for ad agencies as the IT director for many years, and had been in that world for a long time, and used a lot of those experiences in helping with those productions and helping with, you know, organizing those things into producing, you know, video for clients. And then even doing some writing on the creative side, and have written many scripts now for commercials, and, you know, we've done some national stuff, and it's been pretty good, and it was pretty fun. So, you know, those are always fun projects, and but yeah, I mean, you continue to move around until you find something that works that you're, you know, able to be successful at.
Yeah, you can have multiple passions, and it's just blending them together.
And how long has your company been around now?
So Real Simple Photos started in 2014. So we've been around 4 years now. And my other consulting company, that's the IT consulting, that's been around since 1996. So.
Oh, okay, when I was born.
As old as us.
So no doing the math right now. We aren't going to go and do anything like that. So
Yeah.
Some people don't want that, so that's cool. And then we'd know how old you are too.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to ask that question. All right. So you have worked with some of my interns, and one of them was Alani. And next week, Alani and Chuck will be on the show. But
Chuck stole Alani from me.
He stole Alani from me also.
Yeah, I'm still pretty sore about that one.
We'll save them for our next sponsor.
Yeah.
BMDM.
Yeah. Fist raised, yes. Anyway, so you got to work with Alani, and you worked with some of the others, and then I would have you come in and also do some mentoring. We have a PR campaign that we're using called #WhatILearned. What did you learn about working with interns that you can really appreciate at this age where you are now?
Sure.
And then what did you learn if you were an intern?
Yeah, I never was an intern. I struck out on my own pretty young, and because, you know, there was very few people in my field of consulting at the time, specifically in the type of consulting I did in the mid-2000s, there was like 9 of us in the world that did that kind of thing. So
does that mean you found yourself a lot of business?
It was just, you know, businesses found us. I mean, I was referred by Apple to clients most of the time. So because there was only like 9 of us that did that particular product. Anyway, so I never was an intern. However, I think that what I do learn from interns, and Alani was definitely one of these, is like there's always a fresh perspective, right? Is, you know, when you've been doing something for a really long time, and you work on, you know, that experiential basis, whereas what I mean is you jump to certain conclusions based on previous experience, and a lot of times what a really good intern does is kind of back you up from that, and they're like, well, what if we did X? And you hadn't even considered that because you've been in this rut where you've been going like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, you know, because this is what we do, and we're going to do this. And what a really good intern can do is kind of
fresh perspective,
give you a fresh perspective, and, you know, be able to get you to put the brakes on and maybe pull out of that rut and find a different way of doing something that is, you know, really positive. And, you know, sometimes it's a dumb idea and it doesn't work out. That's fine.
But now you know,
dumb
too.
ideas too, you know. So I mean,
it's not tied to a title.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you know, good ideas can come from anywhere and dumb ideas can come from anywhere. And, you know, the path that you have to do is just try the things that, you know, are going to seem correct at the time. And entrepreneurial spirit is all about risk taking anyway. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you're not willing to listen to everybody, including your intern, that may have a good idea, I don't see where the risk is. So,
Yep. So anyway, it sounded like you learned to receive feedback from others. I always found that to be very much of who you are. I think that you're always open to that kind of feedback. That was cool. The other thing is we always talk about leaders here. So can you tell us a leader that has really impacted your life for the better? If you have a quote, that's awesome. You can share that. We used to ask about 3 great leaders, and I said, you know what? I think we need to, for time's sake, just focus on one. So for any of our listeners, if they want to know why we're going from 3, it's because we're trying to make sure we're spending quality and we're not having to feel rushed. Mm-hmm. So great leader.
Yeah.
And why?
And actually, I just bought this guy's book. His name is Jordan Peterson. And he is excellent.
They're shaking their heads. Yes, they must know this.
He's shaking his head.
Yeah, I know of him. He has done a lot of lectures and podcasts and things like that. He's a very, very intelligent, well-spoken individual. I've wanted to get his book. I just haven't had the chance to.
Well, when I get done with it, you can have it.
All right.
So,
all right.
His book is called 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote for Chaos. And I mean, they're like the simplest things, like one of his rules is stand up straight with your shoulders back and your chest forward.
I'm going to even sit up
Good
straight.
posture, right? Another one is like, if you see a cat, pet the cat. I'm not even kidding. Like, these are his rules for life, It's like, if you want to change the world, start by cleaning your room. I mean, they get down to very basic things, but I mean...
Things you can control.
Things that you can't... Yeah, absolutely. Things that you can control and things that are... going to be beneficial for you as a human being. And his whole premise is that if you are wanting to do all these great things, you have to be a great person to start with. And, that's a very interesting message. And, I've seen, he's an academic actually. He works at a university up in Toronto.
I'm intrigued. Now I want to, you're not going to get the book first. I'm going to ask to get the book from him, and then I'll pass it over to you.
Right? There you go.
I believe I found him originally because he created a personality quiz online.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go look for him right now.
Yeah, you can look up Jordan Peterson personality quiz, something along those lines. And that was like the first introduction.
Do you find it accurate?
I did, but I mean... I don't want to speak for everybody.
He's a clinical psychologist, so he's a researcher. And
here it is. Yeah, Jordan Peterson personality test is finally online.
Yeah.
Whatever this is. So, okay.
I mean, he's been doing research for many, many years. So. Anyway, he's fascinating, and he's definitely somebody. He has a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers now.
Wow.
So
he also frequents podcasts. You can find him on like any massive podcast that's been out there. He's probably done an episode with them.
And so it says he's a psychologist. Mm-hmm. Here it is, 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote for Chaos. Okay.
Yeah.
Psychologist, huh?
Pretty interesting guy. Yeah. And he, he just, he got real famous because he went on this interview in Britain, and it was real contentious, and the lady was, the way that journalists generally do things is like, if a journalist can do something to ruin somebody's life, that's their career boost. That's how journalists get ahead. That's just their business. And so, this woman was like going after him, and he took her apart on her own show.
And why do you find this being one of your great leaders?
Because he brings a sense of order to how people are presenting themselves to other people and how people are able to accomplish things both in their lives and in the workplace. And I think that especially for young people, his message is extremely popular for a reason, and it is because people are searching for that, that meaning, that deeper meaning in the things that they do and the things that they are as a person. And, he points at, how do you get to that deeper meaning? You know, and so it's. I think that right now is kind of his moment, and as a thought leader, he's extremely provocative, but he also makes a lot of sense. And I think I would encourage just about any intern out there, that wants to get ahead in front of their peers. These 12 little rules would go very far as an antidote to the normal things that people want to say that are disparaging about millennials and college grads and these things. They don't listen and they slouch and they blah 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 blah. And there's a myriad of complaints that people from my generation have about the younger generation, but I think that people in that younger generation, like Alani, can be extremely productive and very good at what they do. But the problem is that they've never had a lot of training in exactly how to do that. Because people tend to be really, honestly, people tend to be really wishy-washy, even in the business world now. Like, people don't want to tell people, like, no, that's not right. Or, it's like, well, whatever's right for you, you just do that, and it's just this very wishy-washy, kind of world that we live in. And to have that ability to center something, and anchor to something, then it's very positive for the business world.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I've said this before, but I don't know if, probably not to you, but I probably have said it to Duran, is that most people, and I say most, 90, 95%, want to feel like they're leaving something behind for others. There's a legacy they can leave in some way. They want to be respected, accepted, and loved. I think those are at the core of just all of us. And honestly, I think we're built for relationships. So what it is that the little bit that you had shared about him, I'm going to be looking him up even more. But it sounds like it's about establishing relationships, working to control things that are inside of yourself so that you have something to offer to others. Many times I think people are lost because they don't realize what their own gifts are, and what they can contribute is really what is in your head and your heart. Those are the best two qualities and gifts that you have, so it can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, so back over here, cats. I'm going to go back and pet a cat today. I'm going to go find one. I'm going to go look for one. I don't think there's any on this campus, but I know they are at Rollins. I've seen them there. They may be at some other campus. I'm not sure. Anyway, cool things in tech. What do they use now in video production or even in photography? How has the whole taking pictures changed? Do you still have to go and put it in all of the chemicals to make the pictures come?
I
have
since
nothing.
Digital photography.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I do still shoot film, but only for special art type things. Anyway, but actually, the thing that is really kind of revolutionizing the industry right now is the new generation of Steadicams. Because DJI, who is the drone maker, they make all the little things that buzz above your head and spy on you in your yard and stuff. They're an amazing technology company, and they're one of the few Chinese companies that is at the very tip top of their industry.
So what's the name of that company again?
DJI.
DJI. Okay, I'm going to go look this one up.
Yeah, I mean, it stands for something in Chinese, I'm fairly certain. But for us Americans, it's just DJI, and they're an awesome company.
Oh, it says the future of possible?
Yeah.
I like that. The
It's a good
future
tagline.
of possible.
Yeah, and they just, they don't take no for an answer, and they just make cool things.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we had a project where we had to go through a construction zone, which is a hard hat only area, all this stuff.
Is this when you did that really cool video? Okay, we
Orlando
won't.
Health.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
say it. I wasn't
yeah.
going to. For Orlando Health, this was the coolest video. I'm telling you, it was really, really good.
So Orlando Health hired us to basically video the progression of construction on one of their hospitals. And so they were building a hospital out in Ocoee, and so we had to do interior shots for this video. If you were to take a normal Steadicam or any kind of video production equipment and you set up lights and all this other jazz, like it's extremely intrusive, A, B, it's big and bulky and not safe when you've got dust everywhere and you're trying to bring this big piece of equipment around, and it'd just be a disaster. We used a product called an Osmo, which is just a really tiny little camera on this little gimbal. A gimbal is just like it's a 3-axis motor that allows for you to move, and the camera moves with you and stays steady. But it's really small. But what they just came out with, and to answer your question about cutting edge tech, the Osmo's been around for a while, was basically a handheld Osmo for Sony and Canon cameras. The two most used cameras for video in the industry that are SLRs are Sony and Canon, Sony being the more prevalent now. And you literally just take your Sony camera, you put it on this thing, and instead of this big rig and like a counterbalance weights and all this jazz, you just stick it on there, you screw it on, you turn it on, and it's like, whoop, comes to life.
That easy.
It's that easy. And then they even have like little like accessories so you can like change the focus and stuff, without messing with it. I mean, it's neat. I haven't actually seen one in person yet. They just announced it. But we're getting a couple at the studio because one of the studio's sponsors is DJI. So,
As far as I know as well, they also make them just for your smartphone.
yeah,
And those are relatively affordable. I mean, anyone can purchase one of those and have great camera footage. I remember using them in high school. So,
yeah, those are called the Osmo Mobile.
Yeah,
so they just came with the Mobile 2, and they're $99.
So is it like a stick that you put, like the selfie sticks, like those?
Yeah, it's a stick that's got a gimbal on it. You stick your phone in there, and your phone is the camera because the phones have excellent video cameras these days, and so you just stick your phone in there and just go, bzz, and it just keeps it incredibly steady.
Yeah.
Like you can just do jumping around. Sometimes I forget I'm on radio. I'm making hand movements.
That's okay. We're Facebook Live. People
Well, there
are
you go.
seeing
If
it.
you want to see these things,
Yeah.
come on to Facebook.
and if I remember correctly, they also have a thumb control, so that way you can actually like maneuver them and take some interesting shots. It's very
This
cool.
sounds like something you've played with.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
They're $100. I
Yeah.
want to say something like that.
It's affordable.
It's affordable. If you have a child that wants to get into video,
Yeah.
get one for Christmas. They're really
Yeah, I
cool.
gave my son was like 6 at the time when I got my Osmo, and me and one of my photographers from my company were up at the Enzian, and they have like a little outdoor cafe kind of thing. And so my son was with us, and he's just walking around the cafe, taking video. and actually, to this day, I still use some of that video because he just by accident like pushed it straight up through the treetops, and the light was coming down, and it's this amazing video of just like golden light filtering through these treetops, but it's all smooth because he's just like walking with it, and it's smoothing out. This kid's like bouncing all around, everywhere, but the video is nice and smooth, so it looks like professionally shot, like B-roll of just like some beautiful light coming through some trees. So yeah, I mean that tells you like anybody can be a
I was going
filmmaker.
to show that to a client. It's like, oh, who made that? Oh, my 6-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, why am I paying you so much if you're 6-year-old? Yeah, there's times when we don't disclose some of that information. It can turn around and bite us. Yeah. So, what piece of advice would you give to an employer that's looking to work with interns?
That's a good question. I think that the bias for a lot of employers, and you probably see this all the time, is just like, interns, so much more work than they're worth. And that is just not true. You can get some great work out of interns, and you can get that fresh perspective on things. And not just like, oh, hey, what do you know about social media? You know, there's also this bias of like 40 to 50-year-old business owners that if you're 20, you literally know everything about social media.
Yeah, but they only know it from a personal side. They really
Right.
don't know it from a business side. And
Yeah.
that's a misconception.
Oh, yeah. So they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, we're just going to hire this 20-year-old kid to do our social media. Here you go.
But
with
then
no
they may
training.
not have a marketing plan in place.
Yeah,
It's like
no.
there's no
I don't
plan.
understand why they failed me.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, what? No, man. You know, I mean, and so we work with a lot of small businesses, and you know, they want to do like what they're there to do and make their dollar bills. And a lot of times, you know, they don't understand the value of an intern, and you know, frankly, you know, there's two extremes, right? You know,
Yeah.
there's like the one extreme, which is like, oh, here's somebody who can go down and do coffee runs for people in the afternoon. Sweet.
Yeah.
You
That
know.
that doesn't reflect well on a resume.
No.
Yeah.
And then there's the other extreme of we're too cheap to hire real employees, and so we're going to try to make the interns do everybody's jobs. you
Which
know.
is illegal.
Totally illegal
Unethical.
and dumb. But, you know, there's a lot of companies that just don't get that memo, man. They don't care. They're like, well, we're small enough. We'll slip under the radar. All right, you got like 40 hours of work to do this week. Come on, knock it out. Oh, you want a job here? Come on. You know?
Yeah.
And so there are those two extremes. And I think that, you know, my advice for employers is that interns can be extremely valuable on both sides. You are training a new generation of folks to come up and take some of these entry-level jobs that you were creating. Because right now it's tough to hire people. I was talking to a business owner last week who needs to hire commercial drivers of all things because they cart cars from dealership to dealership. Apparently this is a thing. I didn't even know this is a thing, but apparently this is a thing. And so this guy, you know, was telling me that it's nearly impossible. He's paying like $30 an hour to try to get drivers, and he can't find people. And I'm like,
I bet the Uber drivers would be happy to help.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
well, since Uber drivers make below minimum wage,
I know.
they figured that out. Yeah. Crazy. So, yeah, I think that, you know, so my response to that gentleman would be, well, I mean, what's your internship program like? Do you have ride-alongs with the correct drivers, you know? I mean, obviously you can't put an intern behind the wheel of an 18-wheeled truck or something like that, but you know, there are things that would be very interesting for that. And I think that also it also goes back to, you know, internships and mentoring and, you know, the ability to do apprenticeships as well for blue collar work. And I think that that's a huge need. Like, for instance, I helped manage a motorcycle shop for a while, and they needed to hire a fabricator. There was not a price that you could put to hire a fabricator in Central Florida that had the right skills. Like, they just don't exist. Somebody that's decent and can, like, weld and, like, you know, make things with their hands and do things on metal. Like, that person just didn't exist. I mean, you could offer them 60, 70 grand, and they'd be like, nah, I can just go get a job for 100 down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And the problem is that the economics don't work out, you know? So, like, for a motorcycle shop, like, if you need to hire a fabricator for $60,000, you got to be selling stuff at crazy prices that people aren't going to buy. And so an entire industry goes down because you don't have qualified people. And you know, that's coming at it from the, you know, the employer perspective. From an employee perspective, it's great. You know, you learn a couple of skills and make crazy money. But from an employer perspective and from the main economy as a whole, you know, that Mike Rowe gentleman who, you know, had his show Dirty Jobs, you know, he's constantly on Facebook talking about this. Like, you know, it may be that, you know, tons of people are in college, and I know that my wife finds that, you know, a lot of people, you know, come to her and they don't know what direction they should go in. They know that they're supposed to go to college. You know, maybe it's, man, you just need to, you know, finish your school and go to a tech college somewhere and learn a year of welding or, something like that. And that could blossom into a whole different thing. Maybe you could be a manager, at a fabrication company, but instead of just, oh, I know a few things about welding. Now you've got, your accounting background, your business background, all these other things that are helpful for the business. So there's definitely opportunities out there for all sorts of things, but yeah. Sorry, that was a really long, rambling answer.
That's okay. So I'm going to give my own shout out. So one of the things that I had hosted this is April, in March was how to create an experiential compliant internship program. And I had opened that up to 12 people. It was my first workshop. I had 3 that came, and I think that's really good. For me, that was, I think, good statistics. And I decided I'm going to continue to do this on a monthly basis and offer it through that method. I want to also get it SHRM certified so that HR managers would... Oh, Society of Human Resource Management. Yeah, sorry for the acronym. Yeah. So certifications are tied to these things too, and then that would encourage, again, more engagement. So I see a real value for it. I saw that, when the people that were there, they said, this is amazing stuff. We did not even know this. So it works really well for people that don't have HR background, that don't know how to work into the compliance side of it, because special shout out, Department of Labor changed it from 6 to 7 criteria, and now employers can get away with doing unpaid internships, and I want to change that dynamic, which you and I had talked about. I want to make sure that every student can have a compliant internship program where, 80% of what they're doing is actually related to the job. So, enough of that. We are actually going to switch over here and get to talk with you, but I think we need to do a shout out.
Yeah, we're actually running out of time, so first we're just going to go to our sponsor.
Okay.
BMDM Marketing Agency. BMDM is a direct marketing agency focused on helping companies reach individuals through online and offline means. Their newest product enables them to send postcards or letters to the homes of anonymous website visitors within 24 hours of their visit, using a patented IP matching technology and our in-house on-demand printing. Thank you, BMDM Marketing Agency, for sponsoring the Intern Whisperer Live.
Thank you, Sophie, for your music.
And if we didn't say already, thank you for being our employer spotlight, Chris Rank.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Okay, now I want to hear you say his name, his last name.
Valan... Zucco. He told me to call him Val Zucco.
Yeah, everyone calls me Val Zucco.
Zuccolillo?
It sounds like you're in the mafia, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, call up Valzucco, man. He'll take care of it.
Yeah.
You need a job done? Just call Val Zucco.
All right, before we end our show, let's get to know Val real quick. So, I understand you're studying advertising and public relations. Is that correct?
Yes.
First of all, what made you choose that major?
Well, as we've kind of talked about today in the ad agency a lot, it is a very connected field to a lot of different disciplines, in my opinion, and I was not sure what I wanted to do. Oh, excuse me. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I came to college originally, but I knew that I took a few advertising classes, and I'd done some ads in high school for like local businesses with my high school program, and I realized that no matter what I did with my life, I would be able to relate it back to what I did during advertising and public relations, and that's basically why I chose it.
All right. And I guess the next question, since you're possibly looking for internships, what made you possibly want to come out to this show tonight?
I have a great interest in radio. I think that the environment is a really engaging environment to be in, and you can learn a lot from it. And I do have a bit of a background in broadcast journalism overall, which made this even more enticing because it's something I want to continue and learn from. And I think that exploring different types of mediums, whether it is live streaming with video or without video or whatever you're doing, is beyond just a learning experience of school or anything. It's a life experience. It's something that I think everybody should try and engage with at some point.
And how would you like to merge those medias together? Like, do you have a specific idea currently?
That's a great question. I don't really know. I think that is something else that can always be advanced, is how do you make everything connect within your life? That's often where you can find holes in the market and things like that, is where can these things connect and how can you be that bridge?
All right,
So
and
let's ask him just his
I'm
great
gonna do,
leader.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going as well. And if you had to pick one great leader and like who influenced your life in a positive way, who would it be?
I think currently it's Elon Musk.
He's a popular option.
Yeah, he is a popular
Yeah,
option. I
people
imagine.
say that one a lot. Yeah.
The stuff that he's able to do with technology is amazing, but also the way that he publicizes himself. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but he deleted all of his Facebook information, things like those things. He
Yeah.
doesn't believe in traditional advertising when it comes to Tesla, and I think that is something that is very incredible. I mean, he's doing stuff with his advertising plan is to launch his
he's
cars
so,
into space,
yeah,
and
he's so extreme.
yeah, he
that's
is
it.
taking everything up to the next possible level, and I think that is something that is amazing. And it's also extremely entertaining, and that's what gets people to watch your stuff.
Brilliant man. Brilliant
Yeah.
man, though. So we're going to have to go and wrap up on here. So let's just say thank you to Valencia College. We want to thank John Q for letting us be here. He is the radio manager here. And we love this college. They give us such freedom and empowerment here, knowledgeable staff, fantastic environment, all of that good stuff. Shout outs
For any of our guests?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to check out our website, realsimplephotos.com, or you can check out our IT site, which is cloudsourcellc.com.
Cool.
And anything for you,
Val?
Val?
None for me.
All right, okay.
Friends, family.
Consider UCF as a college. It's a great place to go.
Okay.
That's it.
And of course, to my family all the time, my Aunt Darlene, our biggest fan.
Oh,
Every
she
time.
is.
I saw you
love
talk
her.
to her last time commenting.
I know. I'm saying I want you as my aunt. One of my aunts, yes. And then my shout out is always going to be thank you for everybody that's here tonight, for all our previous guests or guests coming up. And thank you for the people that are working with me. I appreciate them. Katrina, Aaron, Tyler, Neville, Alex. I mean, my goodness, all of them that are there. Hubert, Anjo, there's just so many of them. But I will name them all off next week on Mouseketeer Call. Anyway, okay.
And I want to end the show just like we started with me saying, this is Ron, this is Isabella, but with our guest this time as well. So can you guys do that for me?
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been Jerron.
This is Isabella.
Christopher.
And Valan.
And thank you for listening to the Intern Whisperer Live. We'll see you next week.
We have got to take a picture.